Hello YouTube, this is Charles and I'm back with a much anticipated Kamen Rider review, and this is for the Kamen Rider Kabuto Perfect Zecter. The last really big release from Kamen Rider Kabuto, but not the last actual roleplay release. There's still one more thing I'll have to cover. This is the box, of course. As you can see, it's typical Kabuto box. It's a big mamma jamma. Why did I say mamma jamma? I don't know. It's a big box, and there you can see Kabuto in hyper form. You have a look at, kind of a look at the stuff that's inside of it. And up top, various modes. Right here, Series 11, so you know what it is. And then on the back, you have more things, including way down here at the bottom. Do not use this to beat on your siblings, unless you can afford it. So, this of course comes about and enters the series after the Hyper Zecter does, and basically, for the origin behind the Hyper Zecter is that Tendo, after discovering the big secret about Hiyori, goes on what's called the Zecter Quest story arc, where he goes around and he collects the Zecters from the other characters. He buys the Sasword Zecter from Tsurugi. He has Gon steal a Drake grip, and he's pretty much just going to kick Kageyama's ass and take the bee away from him, but then Kagami has one of those big character building moments and decides to fight with him about it, which is good because Kageyama was getting his ass kicked. So I'm going to take this guy out of the box, and then we're going to look closer at everything that's going on. One last note on the box, and I swear we'll get to the actual toys here. If you rotate on the look inside the flaps of the box, there you can see the bee, the Zek bee, and over here you can see the Kabuto beetle. And then on the opposite side, big box, you have the Perfect Zecter sword mode, Perfect Zecter gun mode, right there, and then the inside flaps are for Drake and Sasword, so that's a nice touch. Speaking of which, let's actually look at the Zecters themselves, and then we'll look at the Perfect Zecter somewhat. These are the Zecters that actually make this thing work in the show. Because the Perfect Zecter literally is the combination of all the other Zecters together. He literally has the strength of all the other riders. The strength of all the other riders. See, there they are. And you have from left to right, you have Sasword, Drake, and the bee. And now, because TJ started it, this is the part where I'm just showing off. On your left is the B Zecter, and on your right is the Perfect B Zecter. It's the same basic mold, as you can tell, but there's a great more attention to detail with this one than on this one. They're still basically the same. In fact, I'll let you let me zoom in here a little bit more. Still see the eyes are painted nice and red on this one as compared to blank on this one. You can still see the button. The wings still open and close. It still has the connection point, so you actually can use this on the B brace. Screws there, of course. And it folds in, and it still has the actual action, so you can theoretically you can use this on the B brace and have it pop out. Don't know why you'd want to, but you can. Very nice addition to detail, especially compared to this one. I'm gonna move them back up out of the way here. Set the B's aside. And once again, on your left, this is the DX Drake Zecter. And on your right, the DX, or not the DX, the Perfect Drake Zecter. You can see once again, the DX is actually a lot nicer than this one. It's a nicer job of a DX, but it's just not anywhere close to being as nice as the Perfect version. Look at the shades of blue, the amount of detail and painting that's been done. I do like the fact that they went through all the trouble of changing up the colors here, I guess for the eyes. You can see here we have red eyes, and on this one we have blue or aquamarine eyes. And here, of course, would be the latch point if you want to use this with the Drake grip. Of course, one other thing I want to look at is the wings. You see roughly the same kind of wings as the DX version, but just much nicer detail. I'm going to go ahead and put these guys out back here. And finally, we just because it wouldn't be complete otherwise, we have the DX Sassword and the Perfect Zecter. Again, it's the same mold, just with more paint, details, and apps. One of the most glaring one, of course, is right up here on the top. You can see once again on the DX those are green lights, and on this they're red. Still roughly the same amount of articulation. Nice little chromed out legs. And here's the switch where you can attach this to the Sassword blade, or sword handle, I guess, the hilt. So overall, these are exactly pretty much the same as their DX counterparts. They just have new coloring, much greater attention to detail, and they look just nice. I mean, very nice. So I'm going to put these aside and we'll look at the Perfect Zecter main part in a second. And I'm back. So this is the actual Perfect Zecter itself. That has, and it is the part that has all the lights and the sounds and everything in it. As you can tell, it has vaguely an insect motif, but unlike most of the other Zecters, it's kind of hard to identify what insect this would be based off of. Although, you know, maybe these are the eyes and it's another beetle, I would assume. There's the speaker, of course, right there. Let's focus in on some of the details first. See right here are the ridges. That would be the horns. Actually, let's start at the top here. And there's this, which should be fairly obvious what that's for. It's a nice deep red to match Kabuto. Of course, in the eyes. And there's this, which has a use, and I'll get to that in a minute. You have these things, which are, I don't know what they are. I suppose they're outputs of some sort. And these four colored sections, of course. And you have the hilt down here. Side view. I'll get to what that is. And we have this. Let's see. Here's that. Oh, that gap right there. That's just part of the toy. I don't know why that's there. All the screw holes underneath. There's the speaker, of course. Trigger. And the other side. I will point, this is the battery compartment. It takes 2 AAA batteries, for those of you who are curious. There's the on-off switch, of course. In fact, let's just go ahead and flip this over so we can do this correctly. So you're asking yourself, how big is this thing? Well, I have a tape measure. Let's find out how big it is. And we're going to do that by correctly measuring this. So, from the tip of the blade all the way out to right there. Say roughly 18 inches or so. Well, that seems kind of an abstract figure. Well, here's a better way of visualizing it. You have your Perfect Zecter. He's flat against the table there, or as flat as he's going to be. And you have Masterpiece / 25th Anniversary Optimus Prime. He doesn't quite reach. In fact, if you fold his arm down here, which I'm fixing to do, you can see he's a little shorter than this thing. So this is actually a very kind of a big toy by Kamen Rider standards. So, thank you very much, Optimus. You've been a great help. Now, back on the shelf. Now, I will point out this thing actually has 2 modes into it. And if you pay attention to the show, you've probably figured out how this works already. To change it between modes, you flip these flaps up. And Optimus just fell down. And here, down under here, is the swivel joint. To change it from sword mode, which is what mode it's currently in, with the I guess part of the pommel out here, to gun mode. And, well, actually, in order to change it to gun mode, you have to press these 2 buttons in right here. Press one of them in, and now you have a gun. So why is it important you have a gun? Well, you need to attach things to it. What things can you attach to this gun? Yeah, them. So let's start with nothing attached, because that's the easiest way. Really, it is just not to have any attachments to anything or anyone at all. First, you have to power this thing on by pressing the switch here. So there you go, there's a generic power sound, and you pressing the trigger will, of course, bring a generic sword swinging sound out. But then you come to these colored sections, which are in fact buttons for Kabuto, the Bee, Drake, and Sword. Let's see what they all do. Kabuto power. Holding it down will trigger a different sound effect and a different finishing attack. Now, if you remember in the show, he actually uses that one to kill some regular sailless worms. Let's look at another one he uses in the show. That's the one he uses to wound Unka Worm and give us that memorable subplot that is kind of sad, but not really. But now let's look at one that isn't used in the show, and that's Drake's. It says Hyper Axe, and that's one of the few that are not used in the show. Which is a shame, because I actually would have liked to have seen it. But let me finish on one that was used in the show. Sword Power. Hyper Slash. And all that is basically is the Rider's Slash, complete with venom dripping off of it. So, now let's convert this thing to gun mode. Fold these in. And Kabuto Power. Hyper Cannon. Sabi Power. And you notice those two were not used in the show, but here's one that is. Great Power. Hyper Shooting. That's the one that is used to outwit Cassius Worm, who has the ability to stop time and kind of screw with people until Tendo uses that on him. Sword Power. Hyper Wave. In case you're wondering, those things will repeat over and over again until you press and hold this thing and then release it. So those are the sound effects, but what about those? Well, in order to make full use of them, you have to attach them. And you do that by doing the following. First thing you do is you take the bee, you attach him way up here, where he can do some good. If you know what you're doing. Hang on a sec. There he goes. Okay, and there is one important thing to notice about this. As you notice, the bee itself is closed. You want to flip the wings up before you attach it, and there you go. It opens all the way up. Okay, why is that? Well, you want the wings open, and this little wings open like that, because then you take the Drake, make sure his wings are connected, like that. And he's going to anchor in here. I mean, you can flip them out again, but kind of like that. So you see what kind of monstrosity you're creating right now? Well, then you take the sword here, you come underneath everything else, and you attach him. Right up there. So now you have the Perfect Zecter completed. So what can you do with this, aside from hurt someone? By bashing them in the head. Well, you do what all Power Rangers do, or any Rangers do actually. You combine.
Kabuto power, Sabi power, Drake power, Sword power, all zecter, combine. Maximum hyper typhoon.
Now, if you watch the show, when he does that, this sword basically turns into a giant claymore type sword, which is a big giant Scottish sword, for those of you who don't know. And he uses it to cleave right through numerous people, and including the boss worm. Well, not the boss worm, but a boss worm or two. But that's not all it can do. You convert this to gun mode, and you get another infamous attack.
Kabuto power, Sabi power, Drake power, Sword power, all zecter, combine. Maximum hyper cyclone.
Okay, and that is the big, I guess, horizontal typhoon slash cyclone finishing attack that Kabuto uses repeatedly on Cassius Worm and on a couple of other worms. It's an attack so powerful that even when he's in hyper form, the Hyper Zecter automatically activates to back him up and sustain him so that he's not knocked on his ass when he goes off. This actually is a pretty good representation of a firearm. As you can see here, you have the sight from the B, and then you have the two guns from the Drake Zecter pointing out. And back here, of course, the handle, and then down the Sword Zecter offers up another grip point, so you can hold it like this. So this is a big toy when it's fully assembled. And I'm going to go ahead and switch it off to save the batteries. Right there. Okay. This is a big toy. This is not something you would get for children unless your children are, highly refined, I guess. Very competent, not likely to break anything. Especially if prices as they are now. But still, this is a very cool toy. Unlike most of the last few toys I've reviewed, I would highly recommend getting this. It has a lot of different sounds and a lot of cool effects you can do. And because it comes with these perfect versions of the other Zecters, you can mix and match them if you have any of the other regular Zecters. And above all, it's really it's the last real major must-have item from Kabuto. Has a Kamen Rider toy. But of course, it's not the last roleplay item that Kabuto did. No. Not for that. Well, and you'll excuse me as I bend down here. No, we still have more.